Hi there, everybody. Can everyone hear me, by the way? It's very noisy out there. Oh, look at that. It's like talking to my kids. Hi there, thanks for coming. My name's Rob Harvey. I've been in the VFX industry for 40 years this year. I started in 1986. Before really computers, so I've been around a long time and seen quite a lot of changes. So the talk today, I was originally told it was about doing VFX on a budget, on a really small budget, but it seems now to be creative problem solving. So I'm hoping it's relevant. I think I've got enough stuff here. So yeah, a bit about me. I went to art school back when there were art schools. Came out, found myself in this industry, and I like a challenge of finding creative solutions, and I quite like having small budgets because it focuses the mind. You also find that the clients are more grateful for ideas when they haven't got any money to realise what they're trying to do. So I've always found that to be quite rewarding. And also I remember when we had no kit, or the kit was incredibly slow, expensive, broke down all the time. So basically our job used to be problem solving all the time. So the first thing I thought I'd do is just show you a Lola reel. We've cut a sort of history reel. It goes back up to about 10 years ago, but it kind of gives you a bit of an idea that we don't just do low budget, we do some high budget stuff as well. So if you could just roll that reel, please. Great. Okay, so that's sort of the work, the kind of range of work we do. There's feature films, there's high-end drama, comedy, all sorts of things. So to talk about about the work. We approach our work with, if it looks good, it's good. We don't tend to work around, because it's VFX, there's a process, you have to stick to that, that's the way we do things. We don't really care. So as long as the picture up on the screen, the client's happy, it's a good shot. So that means we can use a lot of different techniques and try things out. So costs getting high. I think one of the things we've noticed is there's an increasing lack of discipline with VFX from the client side and from the operational side. It used to be very, very expensive, so everybody was concentrating on it, everybody wanted everything correct before we even started doing the shots. That's kind of getting a little bit lazy these days. It's people can shoot as much as they like, store as much as they like, and do as many versions as they like, and it's just getting a little bit kind of crazy, and a lot of money's wasted that way. The expression "we'll fix it in post" or "we'll fix that in VFX," which is just commonplace on set these days, would never have happened back in the day. It's like, what's the problem, we'll fix it. And also we find a lot of jobs, the jobs that run the best are the ones where we're brought in even before green light. So we're collaborating on the script. So we can kind of push ideas and we can kind of create a look for the show very, very early on. And then that way everybody involved from the execs down are aware of what they're making and why. It's really, really important. Quite often we just get given something to quote on competitively and you go, why did you shoot that? It's crazy, you know that. So that can be a bit of a problem. And another one is that the budgets are nearly always lower than the expectation. That the client will go to their broadcaster or their studio and say, yeah, this will be never seen before, feature quality, blah, blah, blah. They have 50 grand. So the two don't marry up. So we often find we're having to kind of come up with solutions that fit budgets. There are other issues like VFX houses. It's not great out there at the moment. So a lot of people are promising stuff. They'll say, yes, we can do that for that money, and then they get in there and it unravels. Some of the artists now working remotely are quite hard to get a hold of. They can go down little rabbit holes for a day, whereas they used to be in the studio and you could kind of interact and help. So there's quite a lot of factors at the moment that are putting pressure on VFX houses to be a little more efficient and spend the money more wisely, get it on screen and don't just waste it with incessant noodling, as I've written down here. Often we also find that there's an increasing tendency to just use CG for everything, which I'm going to illustrate. We don't have to do that. Anything from crowds, flames or water, it's instantly right, that's CG. It might be on the bigger budget stuff. It certainly gives the client more flexibility and the execs more flexibility to change stuff and not make decisions. I kind of prefer when you film something, you might do 2 or 3 takes and they pick a take, and then that's not up for debate. That's what you're going to be using. And that cuts out an awful lot of that incessant noodling. So recently, I found a really old, I was going through some filing cabinets and found an old Digibeta, which my friend over there kindly transferred for me. It's a couple of hours of old work going back, I think there was nothing past about 1998 on it. It was late 80s, early 90s. And having a flick through that, I thought, well, there might be some, it's an interesting excuse to show where we came from as a VFX community back in the day, how we used to solve those problems then. And that if you wouldn't mind just running the reel, this is a silent reel. So we can just run some of this. The work here is a random snippet of from a couple of reels. They're about 35 years old, late 80s, early 90s, and it's an illustration of the sort of work that VFX houses were doing in those days. TV promotions for the BBC, Channel 4, that kind of work. This was pre-Sky, or Sky was a very, very small company pre-Premier League. Music videos had huge budgets, so we did an awful lot of music videos, and commercials were the other thing that we could do. So VFX for film and drama, if there were any, was usually practical effects or effects that were processed in a lab on film. TV couldn't really afford VFX. Animation, we used stop frame and drawn animation more than computer animation at that stage. There's been that whole shift. Model makers were very busy because a lot of the environment work we do now in CG was done as miniatures and models and repeat passes. And it meant that we got to hang out, even glass painting. I just spent a fantastic lunchtime with a guy that had worked with Powell and Pressburger at Pinewood, and he was knocking up a cityscape on a piece of glass in front of the shot we were doing. It was an absolute honour. So I started work. A lot of this work is from a company called Cal Video Graphics or Cell Animation, which were one of probably half a dozen companies working at that point. And in terms of my job, there might have been maybe a dozen of us in the whole of Soho. So it was a very small community. And I was using a machine called a paint box, which was, it basically generated single frames. We then had to put them in a storage system, order them and record them to 1 inch. So it took a very long time. And from that, Quantel developed a thing called a Harry, which was a very, very early kind of version of the Flame Nuke comp kit we use these days. But it held 90 seconds of 4:3 video, and it cost £750,000, and it was charged out, I think, at about £700 an hour. So what made that process interesting was that it was such a small system that we had to delete as we went along. So as the shots were composited, everything was dumped because we hadn't got a fast backup, which meant that everybody was, changing minds was incredibly costly, and if you screwed up, that was it. You were back and starting again. Then that developed into a Henry, which was a bigger version of Harry, which gave us, I think, 15 minutes of storage, and that was £1 million a pop. So very, very expensive, but it could do backup. So the jobs became more complicated. And the most exciting thing for me, I think, was the early days. Every job was the first time anyone had done that. It was literally, we were getting scripts in and going, I don't know how to do it. So there was no rule book. The film processing was still a big thing. We were trying to merge the new technology with that to try and push the envelope a bit. But the advantage was we didn't have any grown-ups or anybody telling us that it was wrong or not to do that, because nobody had a clue what we were doing, including us. But when the ideas worked, you got a reputation with this. It was a very small market. You got a reputation for problem solving. So people would come to you and go, I'm thinking of doing this or that. And we had a queue of clients, so we were on first, second and third pencils every day. Oh, if only that would come back. Really, really, really busy. It sounds blissful, but actually the hours were really terrible. I think we were averaging 60 odd hours a week. It often went more. I think my record was 103 hours before I passed out. We were working weekends, nights, and the machines were very slow. They had to be sat with. They broke down all the time. And then to just put the cherry on top, we'd be doing all this with all of the clients in the room with us. Because it was so expensive, we had the director, producers, agency, their clients, a room full of people in a suite all day, every day. So you were under the cosh. But it was, having said that, it was a fantastic introduction, which people don't get today, where you are seeing the politics at work. You're seeing who's important in the room, where this is going, what to do, and you start making really, really good contacts with people. So that was fantastic. And then I moved to a company in 1989 called Cell Animation, which is sadly now defunct, but was absolutely phenomenal company. They had motion control studios, and I was very interested in the film process. So we had a brilliant team there of the motion control guys that worked with a very early CG 3D department and the comp department on our slow kit, and we did some really quite remarkable work. And you got to work with the best animators, the best model makers, everything. So it was a very 7 years basically of combining film and the new technology. It was really exciting. And we had a big bang moment while I was there where we had a bit of a problem. I'm going to show you the clip in a second. It was an ad, a bit of a chuck-away ad for the Radio Times, but it involved a live-action set and of a room. And in that room, we had to have CG characters interacting with props, casting shadows, reflections. Now, what we worked out was that if we took the data from the motion control rig in 3D space and moved it into 3D, and we built some rough geometry, we could, in theory, match exactly and track in these characters. And I can remember when the test came back and we saw it worked, it was like a room full of cheering. You wouldn't believe it when you watch it. You're going, yeah, what's that? But it really was a bit groundbreaking. And then from that, the next work, we suddenly thought, well, if you can take the data from the rig and put it in the computer, surely we can do something in the computer and throw it the other way back into the rig. And everyone went, oh, that's a bit mad, but we'll give it a go. And it worked a treat. We had a very clever guy, wrote some code. So we were able to build rough wireframe models and scenes in a 3D environment and plot all the moves beforehand before you went to the shoot. And I think today they call it previs. But it was, as far as I'm aware, the first time it was very early 90s. I think we were probably the first to do it because we had the motion control rigs. And we did a couple of shows, which I'm going to show. So you're going to see the Radio Times ad, which kind of sets this up. Then a Guinness ad, which was very, very well known at the time. It won a D&AD Gold Pencil and every award going. Where we basically start on a glass of Guinness, go through it on a continuous move through bubbles, planets, to a tower, through the window and back to the same pint of Guinness. And that's a mathematical equation worked out in a computer and given to a live action camera to scale. And then we took that a stage further with the next show I'm going to show you, which is for Lincoln Cars, which is called Impossible Journey, where we're going from a CD player in a car, out of the car, onto a helicopter, past a train, through, coming back through models. It was absolutely the most complicated nightmare. But if you could just run those clips, that would be great.
Something amazing has happened to Radio Times. ITV, satellite television and Channel 4 have joined BBC One and 2 in Radio Times, the biggest and complete guide to all TV and radio channels. Radio Times. If it's on, it's in.
We have all the time in the world. Time enough for life to unfold all the precious things love has in store. We have all the love in the world. If that's all we have, you will find we need nothing more.
Lincoln LS. Where it's going may not be as surprising as where it comes from.
There you go. So that was the motion control aspect. What we find we do quite a bit, or did back then, was that we would do a sort of test idea. So we'd get some show with quite a low budget and a problem to solve. If it then worked, we could kind of tweak it, adapt it, learn from it, and then move it up to bigger budgets and really stress test it. So the next couple of clips, one of which you'll be very familiar with, we always had a big problem with crowd replication or generating big crowds back then. You've got to realise there was no tracking, no automatic tracking. Everything had to be tracked by hand, and we didn't have digi-doubles or CG people at that point to fall back on. So everything had to come from something real. And it was particularly difficult if there was a moving camera or these crowds had to appear in a CG set or a model set that hadn't yet been filmed. So that was quite tricky. So the first clip I'm going to show is a British comedy film from the late 90s called Still Crazy, which was quite a gem of a little film. It was about a 70s rock band reforming. It had Billy Connolly, Bill Nighy, Tim Spall, Jimmy Nail, Stephen Ray. Had a really good cast. And our biggest issue, apart from the budget being 150 grand for the VFX for the whole film, was in the last scene they appear at like Glastonbury, and we were filming them in the Bond stage at Pinewood. So the band were filmed on a small scale stage on the edge of the tank, and we had about 50 or 100 extras in front of them in the pit. And the director wanted some shots coming round looking back out onto Glastonbury, and then a big pull-out shot at the end. So we were really struggling. So what we came up with was to shoot individual extras against a blue screen on Digibeta at various angles, create little cards of all of those performances, and then we wrote a program to scatter them into the shot and fill out the crowd. So it's basically live action people, but they're all kind of mixed up. And we'd tweak their performances and colours and things just to get that effect. And my God, it worked. So we took that. We were owned at that point. I was at Mill Film at that point, and we were owned by Ridley Scott's company. And he came to us with Gladiator, very early days. I'd say pre-script, but they were writing the script on the set, so it was very early. And we showed him this and did a little test. So we bought a bed sheet from Dickens & Jones department shop across the road as a toga. We were wrapping ourselves in it, everybody in the studio, and just getting boo and cheering and whatever on blue screen. And then we stuck that into a rough CG model of the Colosseum based on a recce that we'd been out to Malta to shoot. And he just turned around and went, well, that's done, let's go. And off we went, which was really brilliant. But it just kind of shows that, you know, taking a bit of a mad idea and running with it and then developing it, it can lead to bigger things. And then when you're on something with a bigger budget, they're really, you know, you can really make it sing. So there's first of all, there's a little clip from Still Crazy. Don't think it's even on DVD, but there's a shot on Gladiator. If you'd like to run, thanks. I'll talk you through that. It's fairly self-explanatory, but.
Wrong about God. Turns out he likes that 70s stuff after all. So it didn't piss down, and they played 4 encores. And with the Almighty in their corner, who knows what might happen? And how will the fruits conspire to bollocks things up this time around? We wait with bated breath.
So here's one you might recognise. So this was the, I think, one of the best shots in the original Gladiator, where the gladiators come out into the Colosseum for the first time. And this was meant to be a circular track around some static gladiators looking around, but we got on set and Ridley just went, Steadicam, be amazing, we can go around, bear in mind, no tracking, nothing. So we went, yeah, okay, we'll give it a bash. That just shows how the crowd were made up. I'm in there somewhere. So we were then basically hand tracking this shot and rotoing. The rotoscoping took nearly 3 months. It was an absolute monster of a shot. And you might notice right at the end, there is a little wobble, but I think we got away with it. So this just shows the CG at the time was all based on photos from the set. They did have a very big set and 2,000 extras for this, but obviously we had to make 50,000 from our little Digibeta people. And we were able to shoot them on Digibeta because they're so small in frame. Everyone was going, well, on 35mm, that would cost a fortune. It's like, you don't need it. So everybody in the crowd on those top decks is always a little card. It's one of, I think we only shot, thanks, you can chop that. I think we only shot 36 people for the whole crowd for that. So it's pretty quick. You can drag extras off from the set while they're dressed in the right light, bang off your library, and then put it all together in post. So that was that. Anyway, enough of the old stuff. Something a little more recent now. Obviously, day rates, kit costs, software, storage has all come down, which is making things faster and cheaper and computers more powerful. And there are literally thousands of people employed in VFX worldwide these days. But there's been no reduction in the ambition or expectation from the clients. So the better we get, they go, right, now we can do this. So it's nothing has changed since day one. The same problems with clients now than we had then, that they're always over asking. And I touched on it before, the kind of cinematic feature film quality for TV documentary budgets in this case. So a good example of that is we did a series called The Planets with Brian Cox, and I can't remember how long ago now, a few years ago, and the brief was to create space, like you do, but the tricky bit was that for their budget they needed 25 minutes of VFX per episode, so nearly was over 2 hours of VFX, and it worked out at about 10k a minute, which is not a lot of money. So I knew the showrunner and the directors quite well, so I said, right, we're going to have to make some really, really strict rules. So we based the look of the films on the Apollo and Gemini missions that were all photographed, slightly shonky framing. It was all quite mucky. No stars to be visible in the solar system. The only one light source for CG. You could only have a sun. That was it. So we limited everything. It was a bit like the White Stripes. You've got a drum and a guitar, and that's it. So we really made it strict and adhered to those rules, and we pulled it off remarkably. It kind of worked very well. They went with it. The BBC were very pleased with the approach, and we got another couple of series out of it. And they're still using it. They're still using shots from planets in documentaries now. They nick them, put stars in the background, God knows why. So what I'd like to do is kind of show, if you can run the clip, I'm just aware of time. Oh, am I out of time? Blimey, that was quick. All right, I've got a little more time. So this is what we do when you don't use CG. These are studio high-speed effects. So I go to my mate Martin at Pirate. We go in his shed with chemicals, with explosives. He has an explosives license, which is great. We pour boiling water in liquid nitrogen. We put charges in fish tanks. We smoke the place up. And it's just a really fantastic way of getting some really, really organic effects. That's got a little flashbulb from an old 40s camera in the middle of a cloud, because that's how you do lightning flashes. So yeah, that's just a little compilation of that. This is our sun texture, which is hammerite paint mixed with petrol and layered up, and it's exactly the same process that happens on the surface of the sun. So it's really good fun, actually, really good fun. It means that the clients are looking at footage, so they're making decisions rather than doing 50 versions in CG. You go, I did this. Oh, that's another trick. When you want a planet surface, just shoot somewhere on Earth and make the sky black and make it monochrome. And then you can fly drones around it. You can do what you like. And I still swear it looks better than CG. This is a photograph from NASA with a bit of rock from the studio, and then these are sand explosions, so sand fired out of cannons, and then we stick them on the back, and there's your trail. So a shot like that would probably take a day in comp. Likewise, there's a bit of footage for the atmosphere, which is something from Pond 5, I think, and then more of our crud flying behind a comet. So yeah, these were really good fun to do in the end. Although you're very limited, you have to really sort of think about how you might sort of create some of this stuff with minimal CG, lots of filming, very strict storyboards. But you can create very, very rich images. Just that's the only bit of CG in it, is the glowy bit. All the rest of it is carcinogenic powder thrown around a shed. But it does make these beautiful early things. There you go. The turntable we had for the model we used in the final shot. So we just made it small and stuck it over the top of, no texturing required. But they work really well, and it means you can do very long shots. There's another example. That's a drone shot over a glacier, and then we basically stick a load of our rubbish in the background and a photo of Saturn behind that, and miraculously a planet being ripped apart by gravity. And again, really quite cheap, but quite effective. And the other good thing about using filmed footage is it doesn't date as much as CG. It's real material. If it's comped properly, you kind of get away with it for many years, as the BBC are at the moment. So there you go. Phew, managed to get through that. So there's one more to go, which is, again, this is more about creature work. We won a pitch with the BBC on the back of the Universe Planet stuff. We did a show with David Attenborough with dinosaurs. So they went, oh, brilliant, that went well. Here's 6 episodes about dinosaurs called Walking with Dinosaurs. We're revamping it. And again, they wanted 25 minutes of full creature dinosaur work for their budget, and it was horrific. I mean, it's not nowhere. I think we had a 10th of the budget of Prehistoric Planet to do that show. So we had to use some tricks. We were reusing animation cycles. You'll notice a lot of our dinosaurs like walking through long grass or behind rock, so you don't see feet interaction. There's quite a bit of cheating going on, or I like to say, problem solving. But the first thing on here, just indulge me. We did this little deer test for Ridley Scott again before Gladiator. It's a deer in Richmond Park. This is about 1995, animated by the now global head of animation at Framestore for his sins. And you can see how quaint it looks compared to the stuff we do these days. Now rigging, muscles and assets are far, far greater. So this brings me on to the final bit. These scenes from Walking with Dinosaurs, obviously the BBC can't afford to film in a burning forest, and you'll see shortly underwater plate shots, and spooky forests full of pterosaurs. So this whole thing is Unreal Engine, which is a games engine. Although I sound like an old fart who only likes messing around in sheds, but we do use technology all the time, and we try and streamline things. So we found that with this, you can previs in Unreal very, very quickly with lit objects. You can play with the lighting and the atmosphere. But our sister company, Milk, we're working on a show where they've suddenly developed a way of taking that material up to final pixel. And a little bit of look dev and messing around, you can actually now use Unreal as final pixel. So this material, we did still use some of the, call me old-fashioned, all the fire and the embers are from Martin's shed, or outside his shed I might add. But the creatures themselves, the other development that's really, really exciting is these are all Houdini Maya animations and models taken into Unreal, look dev'd a bit. We're working on fur and feathers at the moment. They're still a bit tricky. But for these creatures, we're able to actually bring our animation into an Unreal environment where it takes on all the light and the atmosphere in the shot and render that all in one go. Back to comp just to add the fluff, the lens aberrations. So, you know, this really was a game changer. We got 20 odd minutes, I think, of this kind of work. And as I say, it was brilliant for underwater as well. He's going to die in a minute, just to ruin the ending for you. But the directors are able to take, if they say, I want to change the camera, finally we can go, yeah, no problem. Run it out real time to the edit. They can play around with it, cut it down, and then we're working on final shots far easier. It chops out an entire process. Because normally you would previs a shot and then throw it away and then go and do it properly. This is pretty much finished and approved by a lot of execs and clients who finally understand what they're looking at when they're making those calls. So it doesn't work for absolutely everything, but it's certainly really, really changed the game for us. So that's sort of where we're heading at the moment, is into that kind of world. And I think I'm well over now, so I better shut up. Sorry. You can tell I didn't read this through before I started, can't you? But yeah, if there are any questions, either talk to me afterwards or whatever. But yeah, thanks for listening.